Um, her license plate says Life by Design. Whose design? Good morning, you guys. It's Monday. Wow, it's Monday. It goes by fast, doesn't it? It's great to see you guys' faces. I love this. Awesome. Just take it in, breathe. All right, cool. Yeah, when I was introduced to, for some of you that are newer on here, when I got into Isojet, I was pretty much always on a personal development journey. I read the books, but a lot of them, I don't know if I just wasn't ready, or maybe I didn't have the right books that really went into the book that was handed to me when I got into Isogenics, which is The Science of Getting Rich. It just hit me in a way that nothing had before about thinking and about personal development and self-actualization. You know, I always looked for good, I would say in my late teen years, like 18, 19, I didn't read any books in school. My locker, it was like a storage, like, you know how you have storages around town, those storage places, and you just put stuff in it and you forget about it. That's what I thought a locker was. You just put your books in there and you forget about them. Literally. And so I didn't really start reading until like 19, really, right around 19 years old. And then I became enthralled with reading. And I'm sure the books that I read did a lot of good, but they didn't have that profound change on me like The Science of Getting Rich did. And I think it was because of some of going through life. You know, I was 36 years old at the time. Lenny handed me that book in his car on a drive to do a presentation in California, from Utah to California. And the things that I had picked up previous to that were like, be positive. I'm going to paraphrase it and just really condense it, but like, be positive, you know, be upbeat, I guess, you know, like, I kind of think of Tony Robbins in a sense, like if you were just to maybe see something from Tony Robbins, but not really know what he's about, you just think that's positive personal development, like positive thinking. And but it was so much more than positive. He's so much more than positive thinking, but scheduling, like schedule yourself, like we only get so many hours a day and you've got to really utilize the hours that you have, and it's important. So you got to make sure you schedule yourself. I've read the books that talk about, you know, schedule the night before so that when you wake up, you're ready to go. You don't have to figure it out. You know, a lot of books like that, personal development books, how to win friends, influence people. But at 36, I was as far away from my goals and dreams as I could possibly be, not because I wasn't a good, positive person. And I worked really hard. And so like I always, and not just work hard, but put excellence into it, like quality. I like to stand back, and no matter what it is I do, I like to stand back and look at the difference I made because my hands touched it or whatever. And so working hard, setting goals, I would set goals. I would, set my schedule, had a little planner. Some of you have seen that planner. I use it, to schedule when I was doing meetings. I had that planner since I was early 20s, and that same type of planner, Franklin planner. But I was as far away from my goals and dreams as it could possibly be. And I was integrous to God and my values as best I could be. I'm not perfect, but the best that I could be. And I never gave up on any of that. And yet I was as far away from my goals and dreams as I could possibly be. And Bob Proctor, after being introduced to that book, I turned the book over on the backside, and there's a picture of Bob Proctor. And he talks about the book and how he brought it back into print. And so I actually got some CDs around Bob Proctor. It was The Power to Have It All. That's why I named this Empowered to Have It All. His was The Power to Have It All. It was 7 or 8 CDs. I have it somewhere in here. I lent it out, never got it back. And then Carrie got me one for my birthday. because that was one of the big things. I listened to those CDs in the car while I was fixing cars at work. I'd go on extended test drives and listen to the CDs, what Bob was teaching. That if you can get your hands on those CDs, I would highly recommend it. I had them lift me up in the car, in the shop, and because one time the manager came up and he knocked on the window, and I'm in there totally listening to a CD with the windows out, the AC on, and he's all, customer needs their car, you know, as the window was up, and I'm in there listening to the CD. And so I had that, I got smart, you know, you learn, right? You evolve. I had them raise me up in the car on the lift, so you couldn't see me in the car, up, you know, 8 feet in the air. And it was just, I was so into it. I was willing to give everything I've got. You know, you talk about hungering and thirsting after something, and heart, mind, and soul. And that's what this information was, starting with this book that we're going through on this. And I started to learn the control that I had over my outer circumstances, but it started within. And Bob Proctor, the reason I brought Bob Proctor up is because he said something, I don't remember where he said it now, but I think it was on a YouTube. He said 95% of people set goals the wrong way. They set them as being out there, outside of them. And it's kind of like, I want to get out of debt. That's not a good affirmation. It's saying that you're going to stay, that basically is going to keep you in debt, saying I want to get out of debt. And what I realized when Bob said that is that that's how most people set their goals. Is it something that they're not? And Wallace Wattles changed that. And then it just evolved. I started finding as many, you know, one author, the birds of a feather flock together, so do authors, right? So they'll mention other authors' names, people have changed their lives. One of the big ones for me was Thomas Troward. I listened to Bob Proctor and a certain audio, don't remember which one it is now, but he would mention Thomas Troward. And I just never went and investigated Thomas Troward. And then I did, and I was like, oh my gosh, where's this guy been my whole life? You know, so you get introduced to these authors and they start to, you know, it just creates this network within that particular, I guess you could say, genre. And then the movie The Secret came out, and my life was already changing. I was going from one magnificent win to the next. So I totally related to what Rhonda Byrne was saying in the movie The Secret. But this is the same book that she read. Her mom put it in her suitcase when she was packing to go somewhere. And she was having a really hard time in her life. And so I had on my license plate, for the longest time, I'd put some form of The Secret on my license plate. And every once in a while, somebody would give me a thumbs up. They would point like they'd be walking in front of the car or something. And but some people thought it, most people didn't know what it meant. But so anyway, the reason, I don't know what the reason is for bringing that up. I guess just kind of going back to what Carrie said on her license plate, life by design. It's almost like, to me, that license plate, I think of how does somebody look at that when they're sitting behind her at a traffic light. And I think a lot of people probably think it's probably something to do with interior decorating, you know, something to do with furniture, things like that. But that's close, isn't it? Because she's going to come up with the way that she's going to decorate, help somebody decorate. Like, you have the freedom to decorate any way that you want. And I remember in one of the podcasts that I did, talked about how you design your front yard, how you design the interior of your house, your room, the curtains. All of that is something that you pictured first in your mind. Like when you go down to the Lowe's and get the things that you want to plant in your front yard, you already saw them in the front yard before they were there. You used your imagination. And the reason we had brought that up in the podcast was because a lot of people don't feel like they have an imagination. But if you look around, your house is decorated based on something that you saw spiritually first inside of you. Even if it was something that kind of reminded you, you had some exposures of looking through catalogs. You saw a certain print on your bedspread, you know, your comforter. You still took that and put it on your bed and how that looked in your room, in your mind. Everybody has an imagination. It's one of the gifts that we get being offspring of God. It's one of the mental faculties, so imagination. And so just, you know, again, taking responsibility. Well, it's not a matter of taking responsibility, it's learning that you do have control over outer circumstances. And the things that are going on in the world, you might not have control over those, but you have control over how you respond to them. And you better respond to them intelligently rather than act on them ignorantly or let them act on you. If they act on you, now you've forfeited your birthright, your ability to create the life that you want, because you're letting something else cause you to think and feel in a certain way. So just always remember that, you know, you want to check in during the day as often as you can. How am I thinking and feeling? What am I thinking and feeling about right now? Because what I think about, I bring about. It's a perfect mirror reflection, but it happens so incrementally, I guess, or subtle that we don't recognize it. But when you do become awakened to it and you recognize it, you're wondering, how is it that nobody else recognizes it? It just seems so obvious, but it's not so obvious. It's because you did the inner work and you found that pearl of great price, and you see the correlations that are made based on what you're thinking. So just throwing a few things out there based on that. It's going to be a shorter call today because I have an appointment that I have to go to today. So my alarm's going to go off at 8:45 my time, and I'll have to end pretty abruptly right there. So let's just jump into the book on the, anybody want to say anything first before we jump into that? Anything anybody want to share? And I'm going to pull up my screen. Okay, there it is.
Dave, I'll just make a comment on that interior design, because that's exactly what we're doing on the interior of this thing up here that seems to operate so much, right? This brain, this heart, this gut, interior design, our interior. That's what you're helping us work on.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
This gets a little squirrely up here, you know.
Yeah, you got to get rid of the drunk monkey. That's what Matthew Ferry called it, the drunk monkey. And I just would always, I make a good monkey sound. I won't do it for you right now, but I could do a pretty good monkey. And just imagine him drunk, hanging around in there and just swinging and throwing empty beer bottles or, you know, whatever, whiskey bottles. I see the little X's on the bottles and he's just throwing them. And he's all crazy, right? He's in a crazed state. Sometimes we let our minds go there. Most people let their minds go there all the time. So it's a matter of reversing that, going from where we're not consciously thinking to where we're consciously thinking almost all the time. The only time you're not is because you got distracted, right? And sometimes the distractions are valid. Most of the time they're not. But just knowing and putting that together, not just thinking and agreeing with that, but treating that like it's life and death. So this chapter that we're getting into now, gratitude, is a really great way in checking in with yourself and making sure that you're not in disgratitude, or is that, let's see how he frames that up. I can't remember, ingratitude, or let's see here. Okay. So we went here on the last, we started these first, they're worth reading again and reiterating. The illustrations given in the last chapter had conveyed to the reader the fact that the first step toward getting rich is to convey. So you're conveying something, you're always conveying something, even when you're asleep. If you listen to Feeling is the Secret, really pay attention to the last part that Neville Goddard goes into about just before going to sleep. So conveying, you're always conveying. Now you're either doing it consciously or subconsciously, or the environment's causing you to convey something, but we're always conveying something. So when you check in with yourself, you're like, you got to wonder, you got to recognize, am I conveying something that I want to? My mind, you can't unhear what you hear, you can't unsee what you see. And, you know, some of the circumstances are not of our own making. And so, if I get into a place where I'm checking in with myself, which is almost immediately now, just because, 15 years of doing this now on this level, I'll say, do you want to really keep thinking that way? Do you really want to keep thinking that way? Because it isn't going to happen instantaneously, Dave. And the fact that you're thinking that way right now, not such a big deal. But if you stay on track with that thinking, Are you sure you want that thing to keep growing and expanding? So that's, that's my check-in. And no, I really don't. And so I'll change my thoughts towards assuming something else, assuming something that does serve me. All right, so conveying, the conveyance is the feeling. That's where you're tapped into something that you're conveying the message, all right, is the feeling. So that starts with, thoughts and images, which we can conjure up. We can use what other people have used that we really like and relate to them, and then put our own fingerprint on it and our own likes and our own loves, and remove some of the things that we don't want in there. That's why, I'll read any book. I don't care who the author is necessarily, as far as I'm reading a book, that there's a truth that I can glean from there, and that it can help me in my conveying, help me in my understanding of conveying, and deepen my understanding and give me some light and understanding on a deeper level. All right. Don't want to be a closed book. Don't be so bound to such a narrow way of allowing truth to come in. All right. Bruce Lee would teach his students that, if I can't teach you anything, if you won't let me convey an idea to you, if you won't let me convey an idea to you, then why are you even here? Right? He talked about the glass half full or, overflowing, no room to let any water in. So convey the idea of your wants to the formless substance. Formless substance, you guys, some people's paradigms will take them out. They think that's replacing God. Some people will replace God with that erroneously. But again, remember, we talked about this, which was very profound, kind of an aha on a deeper level for me. You can't, no matter any creations that you make, you cannot instill into that creation your mental faculties, your being, right? It's just a creation. It doesn't get to inherit imagination, perception, the will, intuition, reason, right? Those are innately with you as a child of God, as a co-creator. You've inherited that as a literal child of God. That doesn't go into your creations. And the thinking stuff is not a co-creator. It's the stuff, it's intelligent stuff, and it responds, but we have command over it. And so a lot of people are making the creations the creator. They're worshiping the creations like they're the supreme, and that's erroneous. So this is true, and you will see that in order to do so, it becomes necessary to relate yourself to the formless intelligence in a harmonious way. This is where the template really helps, right? So I'm doing this Zoom based on part of collaborating with our Isagenix business, which is really our life, but really taking it and putting it together with, let's see, this is one that I've kind of been working on for kids, make it a little bit more fun and friendly. We'll do that later. Who's empowered to have it all? Make sure we. Here we go. Empowered to have it all. Do you see it? Yeah. Okay. So we're conveying, it's important that it's very scientific, right? And it has to be exact. When you're working with the law, there's no mercy in utilizing, in this case, designing your life. You're working with the law, and it has to be pretty exact. There's not a lot of wiggle room in there. There is, the principle of forgiveness, but in this case, we've got to build our character and our personality and our behaviors in a way that they're pretty exact. You know, love is love, and you can, you know, you exemplify love within certain parameters. You're right. You get outside of those parameters and you step outside of the parameter of love. So the law of non-resistance, you step outside the parameters of the law of, let's do it like this. So let's say that this is the law of non-resistance right here. We call it L and R. Right? So here's what we have to work within. The moment you step out here, you're negating. You can't step outside there. Just like with the law of gravity, you know, you could use some other principles to, I wouldn't say defy the law of gravity, but to work with the law of gravity, like a parachute or a hang glider or an airplane. But when it comes to the law of non-resistance, you know, you don't want to, you can't toy with getting outside of the parameters. This is the law. And it's very exact. Now, gratefully, when I think about, when I break the law of non-resistance, when I think about the obstacles, when I think about the obstacles and I make an agreement with them, they don't happen immediately. In the movie The Secret, they show the guy in his apartment and he's thinking, and all of a sudden there's an elephant in his living room, right? And then they show him cleaning up the elephant mess that the elephant left in the middle of his living room, right? So it doesn't work like that, like where it's so quick, like the law of gravity. When you break the law of gravity, it's pretty immediate. That's why we all agree on the law of gravity. There's not going to be anybody that disagrees on the principles of the law of gravity. I think about that. That's pretty profound though, because that is a principle, just like the principle of health. There are people who will disagree with you on the principles of health, but that doesn't change the principles, right? And the same thing with the law of non-resistance. There is no mercy outside of here when it comes to being an intentional creator. But even in your effort and making mistakes, if you keep making mistakes out here, then you're not going to be able to totally have your life by design. You've got to discipline yourself. Discipline means that you stay within the parameters of the law of non-resistance or the law of assumption. Okay, so I want you to understand that what's being exacted of you is a high level of discipline. And if we're not a very disciplined person, then we're going to have a hard time. But it doesn't mean that we can't become disciplined. There's neuroplasticity at any age with any person, right? That means we can become disciplined. We could become anything we want to with enough effort and consistency. So, all right, so there's just an exactness with it. Same thing with the law of gratitude. So this is true, and you will see that in order to do so, it becomes necessary to relate yourself to the formless intelligence in a harmonious way. To secure this harmonious relation is a matter of such primary and vital importance that I shall give some space to its discussion here and give you instruction, which, if you will follow them, will be certain to bring you into perfect unity of mind with God. There's a lot to be said about gratitude. A lot of us have probably been introduced to things about gratitude. There's probably some kind of exercises that you've done on gratitude. The book, The Power, what is it, the book called again that we've done from Rhonda Byrne on gratitude, where you're doing it every day? Anybody remember the name of that book?
Magic.
The magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
The Magic. The Magic is an awesome book for you to develop and exercise that muscle. Again, it is just a muscle that you want to develop and discipline. And the book, The Magic, is really good. Now, so she's going to give you some outline to focus on in gratitude. Like, she's going to give you some suggestions. And I would follow it to the T, because how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you do that really well, then you're also going to do your template really well. You know, if you do it great, then you're going to do your template great. All right. So I've seen people get lost though in the books like what she's suggesting to you may not necessarily build your Isagenix business if you don't do the exercises, if you don't do your template, if you're not doing the template. You could do the book, The Magic, all day long and your cycles never increase. You could do it all day long, every month, month after month for a year, and do it with excellence. But your cycles and your impact that you're making in other people's lives and your own health and other people's and the income that's coming in won't change a bit because you're not doing it exact, right? You're doing the book, The Magic, with excellence, but the law demands that you do certain things in a certain way, certain scientific way, right? And in order to have cycles, you have to do things in a certain scientific way. In order to have the right customers, the right business partners, you have to do something in a certain and scientific way. And the book, The Magic, is not going to have you do that. I'll tell you right now, the book, The Magic, will not have you build customers and business partners in a certain and scientific way when it comes to Isagenix in your business. All right. So you've got to be wise on that level. You got to be smart and realize, okay, I'm learning how to discipline my mind in getting into a state of gratitude. But you don't want to get lost in the books. You don't want to get lost in the feeling that that book will create for you and not change the circumstances of your life. I see that happen a lot in this industry, and I've seen it happen a lot in Isagenix. Okay, some people are forever on a personal development journey. They're the weekend seminars year after year, and their lives aren't changing. Go ahead, Malcolm.
If you're grateful, you share. Share is an action, right? So who are you going to tell? Who are you going to share with that you're grateful? That's our business in a nutshell, right?
It's a good phrase to have, but you got to really think about that and dissect it. And what does it mean for you in the way that you can frame things up? If you're grateful, you share, right? That could just be a sentence to you. So you got to make sure that, and I'm speaking to everybody and myself included, you got to dissect that and what does it really mean and what is it trying to teach me, right? Because it'll help you in framing things up. So to secure the harmonious relation is a matter of such primary, so I read that. Oh wait, no, I didn't. To secure this harmonious relation is a matter of such primary and vital importance that I will give some space to its discussion here and give you instructions, which if you will follow them, will be certain to bring you into perfect unity of mind with God. See, wait, formless substance. Okay, some people will get that mixed up and say, oh, he's taking God out of it. But wait, no, he mentions God right here and getting into perfect unity in mind of God. What did Jesus say? That he was one with the Father. To see him was to see the Father. To listen to him was to listen to the Father. He was in such perfect unity that it was oneness. To see one would be to see the other. All right, that's how you want to get with your life by design. And most people don't even have a clear description of what their perfect life looks like. Bob Proctor said, if I was to give you $1 million a month, what would you do with that right now? What would you do right now? Most people can't answer him. He says, I ask that question over and over, thinking that I'm going to get an answer from somebody. And they just kind of like, they get paralyzed. It's like the cat got their tongue. They can't even say what they would do with that right now because they haven't really put into, they didn't take the fantasy and turn it into a theory. That's what we're doing here with this, is we're helping to take the fantasy and turn it into a theory, which then we could put into a working, what does he call it here? A working harmony with God, I guess I'll say, for lack of a better way of saying it right now. All right, so the whole process of mental adjustment and atonement can be atonement at one with. You want to be at one and in harmony with the law. All the laws. Now, there's only a handful of laws that you really need to learn. Really 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 laws that you really got to master. And your life, in this life, will go from one magnificent win to the next. I know I need to learn the laws of mathematics. I'll wait until the next life. I'll save that one for the eternity to work out. Right now, that book is in the locker. but I know I'm going to need to learn the laws of mathematics way beyond what people understand it here in this life. But right now, to build my life and go from one magnificent win to the next, the only math that I needed to learn was the power of 2 and 6%. I did learn that math, right? So the whole process of mental adjustment and atonement at one with can be summed up in one word: gratitude. Gratitude will take you a long ways because it automatically makes you implement some other laws. It makes you implement the law of non-resistance and not break it. If you obey the law of gratitude, it will put you in harmony with the law of non-resistance. Think about that for a second. The law of non-resistance is such an important daily, it's a law, it's one of those, it's a working law. It's like one of those blue collar laws. I've never said that before, but the law of non-resistance is a blue collar law. It's something that you're working with it all day long. And it's a fun law, and it could be very rewarding, you know, for the work that you put in. And gratitude is like a sister law to that. And it actually will keep you in alignment with the law of non-resistance. So right here on my wall says all of the joys and appetites are located in the imagination. So where's the imagination? We've taken that and we put it into a theory. We've got the blueprint now. So that's the imagination. If we keep our imagination focused on the objective, how do we keep our imagination focused on the objective? Well, we have it scripted out very clearly. If you've watched that 1 and 50-minute YouTube where I go through each one of these steps, you have a very scripted out, very specific, detailed blueprint. Some of you could have not put excellence into that and kind of hurried through it, not thought about it much, you know, to each their own. We're ready when we're ready. So we have that. So the whole process of mental adjustment and atonement can be summed up in one word: gratitude. You're adjusting your mental adjustment. Do you see that right there? This is the behavior change. The behavior change. If you've taken that fantasy and turned it into a theory, now we've got to have the mental adjustment. It's not just something you write down and then you walk away from it and forget it. You can't say your prayer in the morning and then forget about it and go and do everything in the opposite of what you prayed for that morning. Prayer is not about asking and getting. It's about preparing yourself to receive. So this is your prayer right here. This is a prayer. This is your prayer that you're going to hold in your heart all day long. You can't go out and then break and do things opposite of that. You've got to adjust your mental adjustment to be in harmony with that blueprint and stay at one with it and the laws. And it can be summed up in one word: gratitude. So gratitude, all right, so if we concentrate on the obstacle, boom, you're not in gratitude right there. If you concentrate on the obstacle, you're not in gratitude, you're in dissatisfaction. You fell out of gratitude. I hear it with people that that I have conversations with. They make agreements and they fall into dissatisfaction. And people say, well, how can you not talk about that? That's not living in the real world. That's not living in a reality. What is reality? Things are in a constant state of change. They won't change, though, unless you change. And that comes through the mental adjustment. And the moment you're talking about something that you're dissatisfied with, you've broken the law of non-resistance and you fell out of gratitude. You fell out of gratitude. You let somebody pull you out of gratitude. You let something external, some event, something somebody said, they pulled you out of gratitude. How do I know? Because you're sharing something that you're dissatisfied about. You're in a sense of dissatisfaction. And you might guise that with, I got to talk about it though. And we got to make an agreement that it exists and that it's part of our reality. No, you don't. La, 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 I can't hear what you're saying. That's a mental adjustment. And people will say, well, I can't agree with that. And they won't ever make that mental adjustment. Positive people, very successful people, not positive people, successful people who are successful again and again and again, they very rarely bring up something they're dissatisfied about. If they do, they have the solution for it. and they're trying to figure out what that solution is for it in a positive way, not in making an agreement. Some people are not open to the mental adjustment for that particular thing that pulled them out of gratitude. Okay, so let's talk about the solution. Here's how we need to think now, because that just made us aware of how we're not in alignment with the law. That goes back to this. Right here. If you're sharing anything that you're dissatisfied about, the only thing that's an opportunity for you to get back in here, that dissatisfaction and that feeling and you talking about it with somebody, you're outside of this parameter right here with certain laws. Okay, you can't unsee what you heard. You can't unsee what you saw. You can't unhear what you've heard. People are going to say things to you that pull you out here. Do you need to go and have a conversation with somebody out here? And I see that a lot. My first inclination is to get back into here. Now, I don't do it perfectly, but I do it a lot better than I used to. And there are times when I just don't want to be pulled out here by somebody. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And that person just wants to keep pulling me out here. Okay? So I want you to be aware of that, because that's an awareness, that's an understanding. That is an understanding, what I'm talking about right now. In all I get understanding. So to secure this harmonious relation, it's so vitally important. The whole process of mental adjustment and atonement. That's not how most people act. That right now, just know that, make sure you have that understanding. That is not how most people act. Most people operate outside of those parameters. And that's why most people don't experience a dream, fairy tale dream life come true kind of life. All right. Gratitude. First, you believe that there is one intelligent substance from which all things proceed. Second, you believe that this substance gives you everything you desire. And third, you relate yourself to it by a feeling of deep and profound gratitude. Get the audio. Feeling is the secret. Feeling is the secret. It came years later after I was learning this. But this is what I was missing. When I'd get to a certain point in my progression of any goal that I had set, whether it was sports, whether it was investing, making money, no matter what it was, my fitness, this is where I always fell short. So I've used this many times. I have a PowerPoint on it. I'm not going to go look for the PowerPoint, but there's really 3 lines. I used to have the personal development line and the goal line, scale of 1 to 10, right? Scale of 1 to 10. And there's when I was moving towards my goals, let's say I would get to a 4, and then I always got stuck. No matter what it was because of my lack of understanding the laws. I would get outside of the parameter of working with the law. Working with the law, that's a book by Raymond Hollywell. You're working with the law in here. Out here, you're fighting against the law. It's like kicking the pricks. It talks about it in the Bible. You're kicking the pricks. That doesn't feel good. It hurts. The law is acting on you when you're out here, and it's giving you negative results. It's not giving you negative results. That's the consequences of the choices that we make, right? So the rain falls on all of us. The sun falls on all of us. We have to decide if we're going to work within the law or outside the law. Most people operate out here in ignorance. All right, so down here, I was at a 4 in getting to a 10 on my goal. And the only reason why is because my understanding was at a 4. As on the inside, so on the outside. So this is the internal philosophy. The way I see things, the way I govern my actions based on what I'm internalizing inside. So if I could put a number on that, let's say I'm at a 4, doesn't matter what pursuit it is. These laws, all of these different laws, the law of assumption, the law of attraction, the law of non-resistance, the law of compensation, they all overflow into other areas of our lives. So when I can understand these laws better, then my life improves in different areas. So this was so frustrating because I looked at myself as a faithful, Christian, not violating the values and the ethics and the morals that I learned through my Christian faith. All right, so that to me back then was, well, then God should bless me because I'm not violating the values and moral ethics system that I've been taught. I'm not violating that, and so God should reward me for that. That's the feeling most people have. God's will be done based on, and that's the most overused, misunderstood statement in the Bible, Raymond Hollywell says. Because we feel like we deserve better than we're getting because we're not violating our code of ethics. That's not how it works. The law is the law, and God can't work outside of the law. He is the lawgiver, right? So very frustrating when you work really hard, you're very faithful, and you put excellence in everything you do, right? Pretty frustrating to be right here. For me, that was up until 36 years old. But then what happened is I learned some things, and I'm just going to say it, you guys, and not out of disrespect, not out of dishonoring, and not out of blasphemy, but I learned it outside of the Bible. These things that really taught me and helped me to understand God's laws better were outside of the Bible. Now, they were in the Bible, they just weren't as clear as the authors that I was reading was bringing them to life for me, those principles that are in the Bible. These other authors brought them to life for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they were there all the time. So I moved forward to a 5, but I wasn't satisfied with the 5, you guys. No. 6, 7, 8. So what started happening with my business and my goals? 5, 6, 7, 8. Life started changing immediately. And I saw how God was in every bit of that. And it helped me to appreciate and to know God better. How? Because I'm getting to know myself and how I operate and how I can have command over the external environment. So through getting to know myself better, I got to know God better. And through getting to know God, through the laws, I got to know myself better. All right? So first, let's go here. Many people who order their lives rightly. I was ordering my life rightly to the best that I knew how, at a 4. In all other ways are kept in poverty by their lack of gratitude. All right, so I already had some laws down pat. Hard work, put excellence, give your employer the best you've got, don't cheat other people, don't lie. I had those laws down, but I was missing a few laws. So I'm just going to finish with this, give you guys something to chew on. The laws that really helped me to go forward. If you feel like you're like me and you're stuck here and you've got these other laws down, I'll put it in Christian values. I'll say it in that way, not to offend anybody that might be a Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, because I think all of them teach along the same lines of love your neighbor as yourself. Don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat, don't covet, right? So do a good hard day's work for your employer. All of that was down. The things that changed my life were the law of non-resistance, which we're learning in the law of gratitude right there. So I'll put gratitude with that, /gratitude. Huge, the law of assumption. That right there is what kicks in the law of attraction. The law of attraction is a result. The law of assumption is what will allow you to attract the things you're wanting. Okay, if you frame that fantasy up right into a theory and get the right blueprint and you start assuming that, so you're going to assume that it's already so. So when I set my goals now, I wasn't setting them as something outside of me. It's like, who was it? Crystal said that the other day. She's going from one magnificent win to the next right now. She said, I never set a goals and assume those goals as that I was already that person. I had already achieved the goal. So it's like assume is the same thing as achieved with an ED, achieved, not going to achieve, you achieved it. So doing that was a huge, and those two right there, the law of non-resistance and the law of assumption were the two missing laws that I needed to start going forward to one magnificent win to the next. For a mechanic to become a multi-millionaire were these two laws, because I already had some other laws in place. The law of compensation, God's law of compensation, I pretty much already had that. Like as a mechanic, I wanted to give excellence. And I wanted to, like, when I opened my own shop, I charged less. And for the value that I felt, like in my mind, I just had this value system of what my work really was worth in a transaction. And man, I had a very successful shop. All right, so the law of compensation, that's where you want to add value to people, want to add value to other people's lives. Like money isn't the number one thing for you. It's the value that you're going to add to other people. I really pushed myself to become a really good mechanic that could do the work fast so they can get their car back quickly. And then I washed every car that I did. I added value to what I did. I detailed every car, you guys. And so if you like to add value, I had that law down long before I started learning these laws here. Okay, very frustrating to have some of these laws down and be stuck right here. That is very frustrating until you get these other laws. So you got to search for that pearl of great price. And you don't know what that pearl is until you've got it and you start moving your life forward. It's not one pearl. It's not one law. All right. So the law of assumption, assuming, and the law of non-resistance. This is what Bob Proctor was talking about. Most people set their goals the wrong way. So when I hit an obstacle right here, I fell out of gratitude. I fell into dissatisfaction, and I took my eye off of the inception. Most people do start out with the law of assumption when they pursue something. They're assuming what it's like to be here. But then the dissatisfaction takes your eye out of that, your heart out of being in that inception phase, and you start to focus on the obstacles and you go into dissatisfaction. Very subtly, sometimes not so subtly. And that's, I mean, I hope that's a big aha for people right there. Most people are in inception when they start out. It's the coming up against obstacles that takes their eye off the ball, takes them out of assuming and out of gratitude and into dissatisfaction and seeing the obstacles. Focusing on the obstacles now, not on the goal as though you're already there. Every single person, whenever you started something, even starting this Zoom and deciding to get on this Zoom, you saw something for yourself. Quite possibly you saw something. Inception gets you into the law of assuming. But because we don't understand that law and the parameters that we have to work within, we fall out of it in pursuit of our goals. Because we didn't have the discipline to stay in there because we didn't know we were falling out of it. If you don't know you're falling out of something, then you can't get yourself back in there intentionally and consciously. I didn't know I was falling out of a law. And when you fall out of the law, doesn't matter how, quote unquote, righteous you're trying to be and how good of a job you're doing. You fall out of the law, you're going to reap the consequences. All right. So I'll just take a 5-minute discussion. If anybody wants to add anything real quick, and then I've got to bolt out of here. 5 minutes. Anybody?
Yeah, well, Dave, I just want to quickly add, just to save some time for somebody else. But when I first, I guess about 15 years ago, almost 16 years ago, when the secret came out and how that blew me away, and the same thing kind of happened for me. Like outside of the Bible, I was kind of introduced to principles, God's laws. And then it made more sense to me. Then the principles that are in the Bible made more sense to me. And the first time, because of my personal place of worship and stuff like that, or for whatever reason, I guess maybe about 3 years ago, Joyce Myers was the first person that I heard use the word that we're co-creators with God. and it really impacted me, I guess, because I was open to receive it at that point. And then I really embraced it and I understood it. And then like the whole world just expanded, like things that I couldn't see, all of a sudden they became, visible to me. And right next to my desk every day, Tony Robbins, three main things. He says that our lives will be determined by, number one, what we focus on. And he uses the race car driver that, they know not to look at the wall, because if they look at the wall, that's exactly where they're going. They look on the track. They need to stay on the track. It's a fact. They've proven it. When they look at the wall, that's where they wind up going. So he said, what you focus on, that's going to determine your life. The meaning that we give to it, right? The meaning we give to it. And then third is the actions we take. Like Malcolm said, don't get stuck in la la land. Like Jim Rohn says, don't just, wish. If there is a weed, you better pull it, because it will overtake your garden. We do need to ultimately go in action. So I just wanted to quickly share that. Thank you, David.
Yeah, something I was thinking of real quick along with what you're saying. I love this masterminding part, because now it just starts downloading like crazy, you guys. And that we typically do this for like a half hour. So it wasn't about what I deserved or what I thought I was worthy of. A lot of people will go into that place because they don't understand the law. The laws gave me confidence when I understood the definitions behind them, because with the definitions also came the understanding of a clear behavior change that I could make. See, understanding the laws and the definitions, I could see that I was breaking those laws behaviorally. And thinking's a behavior, you guys. It's the most important behavior. And like I say, a lot of people need to be sent in time out for their behavior, thinking behavior. So it wasn't that I had to get to a place where I felt like I deserved it, or I wasn't worthy of it, or I wasn't good enough. Man, I'm going for that highest, grandest version. A millionaire in Isagenix that's making a huge impact, that's training from the stage and changing people's lives profoundly and dramatically again and again. Why not? And it wasn't because I felt like I was good enough to do that. I realized if I got myself in harmony with those laws, with that vision, it had to happen. How it's going to happen, I don't know. God will take care of that how, but I've got to do my part. Put myself in harmony mentally and physically. I really only needed the mental part harmony. I already had the physical part down. Jerry being a 10-time world champion martial artist, he's got that physical down. He's so disciplined. For me, that's how I was in the work ethic that I had. It was the mental. It wasn't that it was terrible. It's just that it was incomplete. And then when I got these few little things that taught me how to change my behavior with my thinking on a mental level, bam, 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 bam. And it wasn't about me and what I was worthy of. Now it's like, how big can I dream, and how disciplined can I be with my mental adjustment and stay in the parameters that are demanded of me mentally. In the beginning, I was not good at holding that mentally. I had to work on holding that within the law. It's a discipline, you guys, but it's something that every one of us can achieve. I really like that, Willie.
Yeah, and I know we're really short of time, but wait till you guys hear from Jerry. He's Grandmaster Jerry Fast Feet Fontanez, 10-time world martial artist champion. Just incredible, and and that's what's that's the caliber of people that are being attracted, and I'm really grateful that the template, for me personally, has allowed me to raise my my belief, my discipline, so I know that I'm a contributor, to what has already in place. When I arrived here, and I was excited with the experience that I had, I think it was Laura or Jojo, or was one of you guys said, of course you broke a record, of course, because they understood, you understood, the Forever Pack community understood the quality of what's been created here, and Dr. Jonathan Poussin, who's on the call also, an incredible doctor. He saw the vision. You know, he became a Crystal manager in less than a week. You know, and these guys are really excited, and so you know we're grateful. You know that they saw the vision. I mean, they're grateful. You know that the Forever Pack is in place. You know, because how they're going to be able to help other people. So I know you don't have a lot of time. You know, but I know.
Well, and also
Hey,
Jerry's
Willie.
already seeing results in 2 days, right, Jerry? In 2 days, he's already seen from the Forever Pack.
Hey Jerry, how many kicks you did this morning?
Well, yeah, but what Dave's talking about is chi. That's a Chinese word, right?
Yeah.
Chi is intention translated into action.
Yep.
Yeah. How many kicks were you
Right.
able to do this morning, Jerry?
So normally I do 50 and I pushed it to 60. And I'm gonna do the whole routine is lay down on bed, because what happens too is a lot of people don't realize that, you know, these hip replacements is because people's legs are weak and the muscles around the joints aren't developed. So if someone has physical therapy, I'll show you how to do it while laying in bed. So this is me while laying in bed. Normally I do 50 or 5 different kicks. Last week I pushed it to 60, and for 3 days I was walking a little sore. Well, 2 days after taking the product, I did 75, and then the next day it felt like nothing. Well, today I did 100, and I'm like, what year is this?
What you talking about, Willis?
What year is this? And the end result really gonna end up being what I want to be, which is all I can, right? And I keep telling people, you know, I did a lot of work with Tony Robbins, right? And what we learned at Mastery in 1992 was that people don't do things until it becomes a must. And a lot of people are in that position right now where they must be aware of their physical, of their immune system. Otherwise, they may not be around. So if you know, timing, that Godspeed is just incredible. So all I have to say is I'm excited because now I do honestly know that I'm in the right place, because the conversation you guys are having. I mean, I read that book 25 years ago. Most people never heard of him. They read it, Think and Go Rich. Well, this is precedes Think and Go Rich. And I'm like, whoa. Now, I haven't had an opportunity to go and dissect it, but now I get a chance to be a good student, take some notes, and interject and do my part. And teamwork makes the dream work. So I'm excited. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Goosebumps. Love it. Love our community. Love our community and who we're attracting. All right, you guys. So every one of you have permission to succeed. I don't give you that. God gives you that, and the laws give you that, you guys. It's not about where you've been. You're not your past. You can reevaluate things and become whatever you desire. And I love what Laura St. John says about Isagenix. It matches human potential, which is unlimited. And so just in the final thoughts here too, with that, just to throw out there, with that becoming great and having that highest, grandest version, we're learning from Wallace Wattles, it's your right to be rich. God wants you to be rich. To not be rich is a sin. To be in want is a sin when we're surrounded with so much abundance. You've got to make sure in that template, you're putting that highest, grandest version of how much income you're willing to receive, right? So that goes along with the good works and the value that you're going to add in other people's lives. It's always a great day. It's divine when you live the law of compensation. When people are receiving value from what you have to offer, every single person on here should be a multi-millionaire, because that's what we've got, something that offers great value to people. So with that, you guys, thanks so much. And we'll see you tonight on the Zoom, live Zoom tonight, Forever Pack. And let's rock it. Let's make the most of today. Carpe diem.
Hey, Dave, just really quickly, 30 seconds. Tonight, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday, Laura St. John is gonna do an overview on this same link on Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then on Thursday, you'll be back, right, Dave? 8:30 Eastern Standard Time? Okay. And then Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is our virtual Super Saturday. Kathy Coover is going to be with us. Guests, at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have all the guests, new people, everybody there. Dave's going to do an overview. Kathy Coover is going to speak on behalf of the company. And Dr. Dunsky is also going to give a powerful testimony. And possibly Grandmaster Jerry Fast Feet Fontanez also might give a brief testimony on Saturday morning as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's gonna be powerful, and then we'll have, I think we're gonna have 2 hours of training after that, right, Dave? We're gonna map that out this week.
Yeah, we're going to make it tight and very valuable, very value based. So
Awesome. Gonna be a great
Love you
week.
guys. Love you guys.
We'll
See
be
ya.
back here tomorrow, 7:30 Pacific, which is 10:30 Eastern. We're doing a mastermind tomorrow morning as well. The same channel.
Same
Thanks,
chat.
guys.
Awesome.
See you guys. Bye, everyone.